talking about the leadership lessons that I kind of learned from Dad. And so the one that I had the privilege of talking to my high school football coach last week, just randomly, and was talking to him. And the one thing as I kind of prepared this and thought about that conversation that I had with him was the quote that was each year in football, I played defense, and the defensive squad, we always had a theme and we had shirts, and that was kind of our thing. And my junior year, the quote that we had on the shirt was, "To whom much is given, much is expected." And so that has been something that even, actually, as weird as it is, some friends of mine were talking last night, and that it's been, since May, it's been 15 years ago since we graduated high school. But yet still that quote is one that I think about often, and to me it's very easy to think about it when you look at, the building that we get to be in and all of the things that we are grateful for in life. And so as with those things on my mind and kind of thinking about preparing this, it was exciting just to think back on a lot of the times early on. If you've been with us for a while, I'm sure you have your stories as well. But I kind of boiled it down to seven principles, 7 principles that I learned from Dad, and then I'm sure we'll get some laughter, but some stories to accompany those principles. The first of which, and one that I think is very present in the company, is integrity. Do what you say and lead by example. Very early on in my kind of, I guess what you would call kind of observation of Dad and what he did on a day-to-day basis, the one thing that I knew was he was always up and always out the door. And when it came to times when we had games, and my brother and I had a lot of them, we were always playing something, he never missed one. Well, I take that back. He missed 2 that I know of, and both of those were in Little League, and I hit home runs in those games. So I always always remind him of those. But there were very few that he missed, even when we were in college. I mean, so we spent 1 year where Tyler and a lot of the teams that they played were in Michigan and Illinois, whereas all the teams that I played were in Ohio and Pennsylvania. So literally stretching at the seams. And they still managed to make that work and figure out how to get from one place. They would take off. I remember specifically when Tyler was still in high school, and they would watch one of my games in the afternoon, and then they would jump in the car and drive across 3 hours to go watch my brother play. And just always one of those things where I feel like that was kind of they said that they signed up to be parents, and that was part of it, and they were ready to do that. And I think the other thing when I think about it is that my dad is one that is never afraid of the work. There is always work to be done, and he is one that is never afraid to put it in. It has to be done, and someone's got to do it, and that's fine with him if that person is he. I look at kind of the things that I do now and try to connect those to why do I do that. And so, one of the things that people often joke about with me is, how early I get up, and that seems crazy, and why do you do that? And, while there are a few reasons, I think one of those reasons is because I watched my dad get up early each and every day. There were often times when I'm sure he didn't necessarily want to or knew that it was going to be a rough day, but for however many years it is now, 30 some odd years, he's got up and went to work. And to me, while it seems simple, that is kind of the essence of integrity. Understanding who you want to be in this world, and then making sure your actions follow that. And that's to me, that integrity is very simple. I think people sometimes make it complicated. It's just do what you say. A lot of people got a lot of talk, and I'm this, and I want to be that, but yet they're not willing to put any actions behind that. And I think the one thing we can learn is that if you want something, you got to be willing to put in the work. Nothing should come easy that's worth doing, really. If it comes easy to you, then is that really a goal? Is that really something that you're working towards? To me, integrity is the basis of really the entire company. We have so many people that work so very hard. It's a little after 6 right now, and there'll be cars pulling up, and I think that's the one thing that's interesting is starting at 6 in the morning is not normal, but we all think it is. We all profess to think it is. Most people are just now getting up. I always think about the people are like, oh yeah, went and worked out before work today, got that in, and the people sitting there, you can't because they don't open that early. But you guys are all here and ready to go. So to me, that is living out really what he started by himself, was getting up and doing the work. And so I thank you I thank all of you for being here, and also the rest of the company. You'll see them filing in as we're talking. The next one is really consistency and attention to detail. And so consistency goes a little bit along with what I was just talking about in integrity and doing the work. But I also think that it's important to understand, what work are you doing? Where's your focus? Is your focus on the easy things, the big things, the kind of the pie in the sky things, or is your focus on the details? And to me, Dad has always been one that has focused on the details, literally down to the coffee on the counter, as we all know. The details. But all joking aside, the details, I think, are what has set us up to be successful. The details are what has allowed us to grow, because there are a lot of elements to growth. But if you don't pay attention to the details, that growth can get out of control really, really quickly. And it can go in the wrong direction. I had a call with Amplify yesterday, and we were talking through it, and the one department that Christine, who's our Amplify kind of coach, if you will, pointed out was that she had never seen an accounting department rank so highly. So our accounting department was it's not a percentage, but they were at 90 point something. She'd said normally accounting departments rank in the 70s, if that. And when I thought about that, and I walked past Christy's office and congratulated her on that, I was preparing this morning. I don't think it's a surprise that attention to detail, she carries that on like nobody else. Well, it's no surprise she's been here the longest with my dad and helping build this into what it is. And her attention to detail, given the results of that survey the first time, and then the second time, and then the third time, are what has propelled that to 90. It wasn't 90 to start, which is perfectly fine. That's okay. We know where we're at, and we know where we need to get to. And her attention to the detail, really digging in, finding out what her team needed, what was going to make things clearer, what they were going to do, has all led to really, really good results. And so obviously the attention to detail piece, while I'm sure she had plenty of her own, I do believe that some of my dad's attention to detail has rubbed off over these years. And so I think it's important for all of us as we set out to lead ourselves, as we set out to lead our team, what are those details that we're overlooking? What are those small things that could make a big difference? The easiest way that I have found to find the little things that we may be overlooking is to find the things that you don't want to do. I mean, is that true or is that true? Yeah. The little things are the things that we don't want to do. Like, is there an easier way around this? Yeah, there is. Just don't focus on those things. I've done it. The things that are uncomfortable are those little things. Because guess what? You're good at the other things. That's why you want to do them. It's the things that you aren't good at or are a little bit uncomfortable. Those are the little things. Because the other things you're good at. I mean, those come easy. Those are the easy things. But what are those hard things? And sometimes those hard things become little things because we don't want to do them. Those are just little things. They ain't going to make a big difference. We'll be fine. I'll just keep doing this. We're seeing success. Well, how do we see a little bit more success? How do we push that envelope? And to me, it's all in the details. It's all in the little things that we do. How many reviews are we getting? How many one-on-ones are we having? Are we all using the agenda card? All of those things. Can we run a service call without getting a review? Can we run a service call without ever having a one-on-one with a technician? We can. We did it for like 25 years. I don't think there was a one-on-one that was had with a technician for quite a while. Can we do it without presenting the agenda card? Yeah, we did it all the way up until 15 when they showed us how to use one. We can do all the things we do without those little things. But it's the little things that'll make us better. It's those uncomfortable things that will propel us forward. So we talked a little bit, just mentioned one-on-ones. The one thing that I have learned from my dad, and this one I'll have to explain it a bit, is the importance of feedback. And more so, not the importance of feedback, but matching the level of feedback that a person needs to how much you give them. So undoubtedly, all kinds of people need all kinds of different levels of feedback. Some people need feedback on a daily basis. Some people need feedback, no news is good news. I'm good. I'm rolling. And that's perfectly fine. Everybody is going to have a different level. But the key is digging in and with your team, digging in with yourself and finding out what is that level of feedback that I need. Because ultimately, feedback is what pushes us forward. It's that line in the sand of, hey, you did this, I need you to do this. Okay, perfect. I'm here, I need to go there. Seems pretty simple. But sometimes when we don't give feedback, people are like, well, I don't know where I'm at. And then other times we give too much feedback and it can be viewed as kind of micromanaging. So we've got to find that level. Well, the only real level is to dig in and talk to people. I just did this with my team the other day. Hey, feedback seems to be a concern. We meet every week. That was probably me going over the top. Do we need to scale it back? Does anyone have any suggestions? Do you want to do it differently? Well, to me, I got a lot of answers. Like, yeah, we don't need to meet every week. Or, yeah, we really kind of informally meet every day. So, yeah, once every 2 weeks would work for me. Okay, perfect. I'm good with whatever. But we've got to understand as leaders, what is that level of feedback? And I say I learned this from my dad. So this used to be something that, up until literally probably recently, frustrated the hell out of me. Like, I just couldn't figure it out. I did everything in my power to, make Dad proud and make him say, you did a good job. Yet, it was hard to get from him. It was very hard to get. Probably still is. But the one thing that I've learned in doing my own research and investigation is I think sneakily, Dad knows how much feedback I need. He knows how much feedback I really need. And I don't really need it as much as I think I do. And really, that level that he gives me is just enough to keep me driving harder and harder. And to me, there's a healthy balance, don't get me wrong. And I'm not saying like, well, maybe you ought to starve everybody on your team of feedback and they'll just keep on going. That may work for some, but I wouldn't recommend it. And I think that our relationship between myself and my dad has really grown because, one, we're very open and honest with each other. We're not a touchy-feely family, if you couldn't tell. And we never have been. And we get that from his side of the family. My grandma on my mom's side is the furthest thing from not touchy-feely. And I love her for it. Grandma Becky she loves that, But my grandparents on my dad's side, and I can see where he gets it from, are some of the hardest people I know. Like, my grandma would outwork you today, and she's like 80-some years old, and she's still going 100 miles an hour. Probably kill my grandpa, poor guy. But that's where he kind of got that from, and I've had to adjust, but it's that open and honest communication that has really propelled us forward. Hey, I don't really agree with that. Whereas before, we may not have said that. And so I think as leaders, having that open and honest communication is the key to moving a relationship forward. Probably people that I work closest with would probably tell you that, or I hope they would, is that even the relationships that we've had around here are more open and honest. Hey, I don't think that went as well. Okay, perfect. Well, how are we going to fix it? And it's not a, demeaning thing. It's just like, hey, I didn't agree with that, or I think we could do it better. Okay, perfect. And so I think that is extremely critical when leading is, when put in a leadership position, it's oftentimes people who don't need a ton of feedback. And so we just kind of expect, well, like, he should know he's doing a good job. Like, he's doing a good job, right? I mean, I think he is. He probably thinks he is. And I think that we need to kind of examine that and really dig in. And that's the uncomfortable part. No one wants to have those uncomfortable conversations when you're digging in, trying to figure out someone's feelings. But I think it's important. And while I say on one hand that my dad and his parents are very, are very tough people, very proud people, there is also something else that I feel like he got from them, and that is compassion. And I think as leaders, having compassion, understanding that at the end of the day, while it is business, it's people in the business, and people have lives, and people have stuff that comes up, and people have things that don't go the way that they want them to, and people are going to bring their lives to work. But the cool part about what we do is we try to kind of mesh the person you are at home with the person you are here. At the end of the day, we want you to be able to lead here like you lead at home. The thing, some of you are probably wondering, like, compassion's not what I would normally picture Pete as. Perfectly understandable. There's also a gentleman that sits next to me that resembles him quite often. And I don't know that he's the picture of what you would strike as compassionate in a number of situations. They are very to the point, here's what's going to happen, here's how it needs to be done. Yet, what you wouldn't know about them is those two guys are probably the most compassionate people that I personally know. They would do anything and everything for you. What's the joke around here? It seems like everybody knows Pete, everybody knows him. They call in. Now, granted, there are a few people that are they're stretching it a bit, just because you ran into them one time doesn't mean you actually know him. But I think that the reason that happens, the reason that is why it is because he is compassionate. People like compassionate people because they understand, they are willing to get on your level, they're willing to help you out. If I called my brother in the middle of the night and said, hey, I need you to come get me, he'd be in the car before I hung up the phone. That's just who he is. Now, he displays a rather tough exterior. I understand that. However, I think that it's extremely, once you get to know him, he is the most caring person that I've ever met. And I think that, well, sometimes I'll get credit, or we'll get credit for helping out a customer or doing something for someone who, hey, they're struggling, and well, just go put it in for them or take care of it or whatever. And I think sometimes I get credit for that, yet I feel like I don't really my dad deserves the credit, because he's the one who instilled that value in the company of compassion. And that makes it's not a decision. That's just what needs to be done. And I think that transition from the decision to be compassionate to no, that's just the way it needs to be done, is something that he instilled in the company, because he would do the same thing. And it's my thought that that's what needs to be done. I was talking to Todd yesterday at the bottom of the stairs over there, and I was telling him I had a conversation with one of our new maintenance guys and really liked him, and we just had a really great conversation. And he was telling me, he's like, well, hey, did you meet this other guy that we got? I was like, no, I haven't met him yet, because I think he started when we were in the virus, and just didn't really meet a lot of people. And so I'm trying to reach out and sit down and talk to some people here now. And he was telling me about a situation this guy was going through, and just a really tough time, and he's going to school, and Todd literally looked at me and just said, so I just told him he could drive his truck to school. And he looked at me like, that was one of the greatest things that could happen, because he didn't have to worry about his car or putting gas in there. And other places, I feel like, or I hope that would have to be a decision that a manager would have to pass through, like a chain of command. Like, you can't just tell somebody they can go take their truck to school. But the fact that he didn't ask, the fact that that was the first time I was ever hearing about that, and not that I really care, but the fact that he just did that on his own tells me that compassion is alive in the building. For people to take that kind of ownership and realize that, well, there's someone in need, and there was a solution, and I made it happen. Perfect. I don't want to know about that stuff. Just go take care of it. Do the right thing. So as leaders, the key, as we dig in, as we look for ways to give them feedback, as we look for ways to, our next word, empowerment, as we look for ways to find out how we can best lead that person, I think it's also important to display a level of compassion, which will take us farther than we could ever take anything. And while compassion can sometimes, give, it will return. Everything is cyclical. And while it may seem like, it cost us a few dollars to go do, waive a service fee for someone who needed it, at the end of the day, it's the right thing to do. So there's really no price on that. The next one is empowerment. So this one's big, and one that we talk about a lot around here. And as I was preparing this morning, I could not help but laugh. And the reason I couldn't help but laugh is I just thought about when I first started here. So obviously, I think Christy was the only one that was here when I started here, but when I started, I thought back, and I'm thinking to myself, when it comes to empowerment, there's no greater example than myself, because most people come in and they apply for a role. You come in and you answer the ad and it says maintenance technician, or it says this manager, or it says whatever. And so everybody's pretty much on the same page as far as I'm going to empower you to go into a customer's home, or I'm going to empower you to manage these people. Whatever that is, whatever job you applied for. I didn't apply for a job necessarily. So I just came in and didn't do anything. I was just doing random things. So he literally hired me, and it wasn't like, oh, I'll bring you into the family business and you can be the service manager or you can be a technician. No, it was literally like you can come in and just sit in the office and figure out something to do. That's how I started. Literally, I can't even imagine what he thought when I showed up on the first day. I mean, I know he loved me, but damn. I mean, really? This guy's just gonna sit here? Like, what's he doing in there? And then to make matters worse, I think the first thing I did was like, Matt helped me, but rewrite the company website. Because we, like, hey, how can we show up in Google hire? Like, that's what I was doing. Like, my dad can barely sometimes figure out how to turn on his computer, much less understand why we're trying to rank higher in Google. That's what I did. But to me, I mean, I did more things as time went on, but that's what I did to start. I literally sat in an office with a laptop that weighed 400 pounds, and I worked on writing the website. That's what I did. And I mean, I'd love to interview some of the people that were here at the first, like, hey, what did you think when I started? What did that look like? And I can't even imagine. I mean, at least I had like a shirt with like a logo on it, so I looked halfway like professional. But man, that's an interesting time. But the key, I think, in the whole thing, as I look back, is he literally let me find my way. He never said, well, you're not doing anything, or hey, go do this. Literally never told me what to do. Just kind of let me go. And he let me try some ideas. I mean, shoot, I probably went in and, hey, I think we need to spend some money on this, or hey, we need to do some marketing here, or we need to do this, like things like, but he just let me do it. And I think back on what I try to do in my role today, and when I talk to other people, it's like, so you just let them just do it? I was like, I mean, I guess. I mean, I just kind of stay out of their way. I mean, I'm good at that. My dad and my brother get mad at me. They're like, well, I get that you're better at delegating than we are. I go, I mean, I just think that they can probably do it. And yet my dad was probably the best delegator out of anybody, because he literally let someone who wasn't doing anything start to do a bunch of stuff. And I don't know if he realizes that, but I notice it and notice it more now that I've in preparing this. But I think if you feel empowered here, it's because of him. Because if he would have stepped in and stopped me at every turn, I don't know that I would have the same outlook that I do today. And I think that's important in leadership, is to those that you're leading, don't be so don't have such urgency to stop their ideas, because there's a lot of great ideas. There's a lot of stuff going on, and the momentum and the power that can create is incredible. I mean, just absolutely incredible. And I think that's it's kind of, that empowerment, that ability to take a step back and let someone move forward and make some mistakes. And as long as we give them the feedback and we work together to correct it, what does that look like? We were sitting in a meeting yesterday, and with our business coach from Nexstar, and I told Christy 2 meetings ago, I think I learned the most that I've ever learned in a meeting in that meeting. That was 2 meetings ago, maybe a meeting ago. And then yesterday, and as I was preparing this, I thought about, why is that? Why was it that, when we're first starting out, we didn't know anything, so knowing anything was okay, shoot, that's, and then we've implemented a lot of stuff, so it's kind of we'll sit in here and see if we can pick up something, but we're already doing everything they tell us to do. And I was sitting there yesterday, and John's going around and going through each department, and I'm just sitting there. And it used to be, this used to be just like, there were some meetings where it was just me and John, and that was it. It was just one person. And as we've brought more and more people in, the coolest part about that meeting yesterday, and I texted Tyler afterwards, and I said, was that not the coolest thing you've ever seen? Because the entire meeting is people working on ideas around the table. Like, he's talking through the phone, and he's working on one thing, but then there's two people over here, and they're working on something that he just said, and hey, we can do this, and hey, maybe we ought to think about that. People are writing down things. People are doing that, and that to me was the essence of what my dad did by empowering me. Is we had an entire room of people that are going to take whatever he said and they're going to run with it. And to me, that's so cool. One, that people take that much ownership, but they take ownership, in my belief, because they feel empowered to do it. Because if they weren't empowered, they would never, I don't need to write anything down. I guess they'll just tell us what to do. I don't want to be like that. That seems awful. I'll throw in my 2 cents every now and then. Don't get me wrong. There are a lot of ideas too. But, hey, just an idea, right? We're just brainstorming. But I just think that's one thing that I always think. I can literally see myself sitting in the office that I sat in when I started. And the fact that he let me do that is something I am eternally grateful for, because it's led me to what I truly love to do. I just absolutely love it. Just waking up every morning, I can't see myself doing anything else. The next one, we've got 3 left, I believe. No, 2 left. Just 2. 2 left. So the next one that I believe goes with, empowerment and taking kind of a step back is humility. And my dad is one that I believe humility is one of his finer qualities, because he has done so many things that I admire and respect, yet he's going to be the last to tell you about them, ever. And, it was never more apparent than yesterday. It's weird how, as you prepare these things kind of enter your life, and it's like, oh my God, that's a shining example. And unfortunately, a good friend of ours, his mother passed away, and so Tyler and I left here yesterday afternoon to swing by the church and go by the showing, and my parents were there about the same time, and we walk in, and this is a Beech Grove family, so they're it's like the mafia over there. So like you walk in, and it's like, I don't know these people because I didn't grow up there, but like Dad did, and like there's like all these people just like they're all conversing like they'd like saw each other like last night. It's just very bizarre. But anyway, so he's talking to this guy. I have no idea who this guy is, but they pick up on a conversation like it's, I'm like, who in God's name? I kind of bump Tyler. I'm like, who is that guy? He's like, I have no idea. I'm like, okay, cool. And some guy knows, hell, I don't know. And the guy goes, first thing out of his mouth, hey, I see your guys' trucks everywhere. And he literally turns and goes, I don't do anything. That's these guys. Guess that's one way to have the conversation. But to me, that is humility at its finest, because he has done a lot. He continues to do a lot. And while it may not be him physically or in the grind of the day-to-day, he's working through us all in one way or another. Because of the foundation that he laid, because of the compassion that he instilled in the company, because of his willingness to empower people, he's still doing quite a bit. And while he may not admit it, nor want to, nor ever, that is a key to leadership. Because oftentimes as leaders, the credit will fall to you. But we have to be willing to disperse that credit, because at the end of the day, We have to take ownership of it, but not the credit. There's no reason to take any credit for anything, because at the end of the day, we all did it together. I can't do it without you. You can't do it without me. That's perfect. That's a great relationship to be in. Not well, I'm leading this thing, so come along. That's not leading. That's managing. And in order to lead, you have to have humility. One of the things that we've somewhat changed we've changed in the company, which I think is for the better, is, adding titles. However, I think we added titles for streamline of communication, who reports to who. It's easier in a 20-person company to not have titles, because it's just kind of known. Everybody reports to one person. There's no levels of management and different stuff like that. So, we have added them, which I think is good. I think it's helped kind of, you go from just kind of a blob to an org chart. You're going to need some sort of organization. But Dad was never one for titles or anything like that. I'm just doing the work. I'm just doing my part, whatever it is. And to me, that's the symbol of leadership. Often people are, I want this title, or I need to have this, or that makes me a leader. As we've talked about many times before, that doesn't make you a leader. It gives you a title, but that doesn't mean people are going to follow you. And people follow those that understand that person that I'm following would do anything for me. They would show me compassion. Humility is a part of their character. They want to empower me to do great things. And I think that as I look at humility, it resembles our motto here. Our motto out in the field. Great customer service, and the revenue will follow. When we display humility, when we understand that we need to give in order to receive, that's humility. It's what we try to do internally. Grow our people, and the company will grow. Not grow the company and find the right people. You're never going to find the right people. You're going to grow the right people. And having the humility to do so is what I think is really the biggest key. And the last, which goes along with humility, is belief. And this is the biggest one. And I read a lot about belief and the human mind and trying to understand how things are built. And the one conclusion that I have come up with is that it is all about belief. You can achieve whatever you set your mind to. But as leaders, do our teams know that we believe in them? Have we had the conversations with them to uncover what it is they want to become and how we can get them there? Belief for me as it relates to my dad, we talked about when I first started. I think I started I would have been 24-ish. So I eventually did more stuff than sit in the office, eventually. But to me, the greatest display of belief was not allowing me to start working there. Just allowing me to start. That's, okay, there's a little bit of belief in there, but, expectation may have been a little bit low. That's fine. But the belief came in 2015. And I still remember sitting there like it was yesterday. I can still picture how his office was set up. It used to be the one that became the call center, that became marketing, that became something else. That used to be his office. And we're sitting there, and I've told this story before, but we had visited a company over in Cincinnati. Their big thing was Nexstar. We drove back. We said we want to be like that. We weren't like that, but we wanted to be like that. We didn't know how, but it seemed like they were really bought into this thing called Nexstar. And that evening we get back, and then the next morning we meet, and it's me, my brother, and my dad sitting in his office. And keep in mind, at this point, I'm 28 and he's 25. And the company at that point in 15, we had a really big year because we did a bunch of new construction. I've told the story before. Tyler and I personally did some new construction because a job fell through. We had way too much going on. Wasn't pretty. It turned out all right. We got it all done miraculously. But at the end of the day, we were 28 and 25. And this guy has built this company for almost 20 years now and put all the sweat and tears and everything into it. And we're having a conversation where, when it comes to belief, he says, well, I think we ought to do this if you guys want to grow the company. And if we don't, then, we don't, but you guys are going to take it where you want to take it. And so literally in his office that day with a 28 and 25-year-old, literally essentially turned over kind of the keys to the company. And as I think back on my 28-year-old self and my brother's 25-year-old self, I wonder what kind of he was thinking there. I oftentimes think about that. If I'm put in that position, what is that conversation going to look like? I don't know yet. But the fact that he believed in us enough to empower us, to let us do that, is probably one of the coolest things I've ever experienced. And I've ran into people that have believed in me or, said, hey, you can do it, but never quite like that. And to me, that is something where, as I spoke about earlier, feedback and us kind of learning and adapting our relationship as we've grown. It's one of those things where anytime that I'm moving forward or we're trying something different, I always have that in the back of my mind, is that he believes in me. And I think as leaders, our teams have to know that we believe in them. They've got to understand that it's okay to make a mistake. I mean, we're not going to, so long as no one gets hurt, we're good. It may not be the right thing to do, but it's okay. We're all going to make mistakes. We're all going to have different opinions. We're all going to go different ways. But it's the fact that you believe in someone enough to say, well, hey, let's give it a shot. Yesterday in that same meeting I was talking about, at the very end, we were talking about a change to our drain process that we were going to make. We were going to make the change, and then someone brought it to me, and I was like, I don't know. So I probably spent the entire weekend thinking over, well, if we do it this way, if we do it that way, if we do it this way, all of this stuff. Basically coming up to the point of like, well, I think something, I don't know if we should do that. And so we talked through it. And I finally came to the conclusion of, you know what? Let's give it a whirl. Shoot, what's the worst that could happen? We change it back, or hell, it works better. I don't know. Right now, it's telling us that it's working better. So let's give it a shot. Hell, there's no harm. Let's go. And to me, that belief, that willingness to just not change things for the sake of changing them because I can, or whatever it is just, hey, let's do it. You guys came up with it. I mean, it doesn't hurt me. And so to me, those are things where belief is critical. Belief in leadership is that willingness to go into the unknown, to take that risk, to move forward. Because at the end of the day, the only way to move forward is to take a risk, because you're going to have to change something. And change, as we talk often, is growth. Change is getting better. And I think it is the faith in people that we have around here, that we display in each other, that builds that trust, which ultimately builds the company. And when you have a company built on trust, and a company built on the principles of accepting new ideas and moving forward, to me, that's the strongest company you can possibly build. And, as I kind of wrap up here, we've talked about integrity, attention to detail, consistency, feedback, compassion, empowerment, humility, and belief. All of these things, and I'm sure there's more, obviously just an hour, so I kind of boiled them down, but, at the end of the day, as leaders, we're called to inspire. We're called to believe in our people in a way that makes them want to chase something bigger. And ultimately, that is the one thing that I think about most often is, and someone asked me about it yesterday, what's your goal? What are you chasing? And I think for me, and I'm so very blessed to do so, is I'm just chasing to make Dad proud. And I think that the reason is, and I relate this to leadership a lot because he's obviously been my leader for 33 years, is that I am who I am because of him. And your people are who they are because of you. They are who they are because of you, because of the belief that you place in them, because of the compassion that you show them, because of the integrity that you lead with. Because at the end of the day, as we've talked so many times, leadership is leading yourself first. And I believe that my dad's always done that. He's always led himself first, which makes him very easy to follow, which makes him very easy to want to make proud. And I think if as leaders, we all understand or all come from the perspective of what would it look like? What would my actions look like if at the end of the day, the people following me wanted to make me proud? And the cool thing is we have complete control over that. And we have complete control over that because it is how we treat them, how we lead them, that will ultimately make them want to make us proud. Because that's what growth is all about. That's what this company is all about. The company is built to raise people, to grow people. Because in growth, you're showing that you want to make someone proud. You want to make the company proud. You want to make your family proud. You want to make your kids proud. Why is that? Well, the reason is because we all collectively have built a place where we can call it home, because that's what we want to do at home. I want to make my dad proud. You probably want to make your parents proud. Probably want to make your kids proud. That's a great thing to be. That's a great spot to be in. You know, leadership is a lot like parenting, because at the end of the day, we're raising people. We're raising them up to be better. And yeah, it may be at answering the phone or taking care of a customer or making sure that the credits and debits are in the right place. But at the end of the day, that's a function. But as they get better and better at that, they develop more confidence. They become a better person. They become a mentor, a leader for someone else. And to me, that's what it's all about. That is leadership. And ultimately, there will be many, many places that say that they're, that's always the popular tagline is they're family owned and operated or whatever it is. And to me, our big thing is we truly are a family, because it's my goal to create a place where everyone wants to make each other proud, where I want to make you guys proud. I wake up early and do crazy stuff because I want to make you proud. I want to make you proud that you work with me. And I think each and every one of us works so hard, as we talked at the beginning, wake up at the butt crack of dawn because we want to make someone proud. And that's a great place to be. And I'm very happy to be here. And I'm very happy that my dad started this place and instilled the values that we now carry on and hopefully spread to tons of people, whether that be customers or people that work here or whatever that is. Because that's really cool. That's bigger than putting in furnaces and water heaters.